Hi, Macy. This is John with Right Move Inspections. Hope you're having a great day. Just wanted to take a few minutes and thank you guys for your business today and prepare a short video for you since y'all weren't actually able to make it in person. All right, so this is what the report will look like. It'll be a total of 71 pages. That's not going to be 71 pages of write-ups and deficiencies. Most of those pages are going to be me just going in and listing the systems and components of the home. Also, I've taken pictures of the serial and model numbers to all the appliances. So everything from the HVAC to the water heater to the kitchen appliances. That way you guys will have all of that stuff in one place and hopefully will be a good resource for you guys to have moving forward. All right, I try to keep these things really simple. The first thing that you'll notice is that there are orange triangles, and those represent something that needs to be repaired or replaced, or some sort of action needs to happen. And then you'll also see these blue dots, and the blue dots are really just more informative to the home and to the inspection, or how it relates to the inspection itself. All right, so this first one here is basically just kind of going over some of the things that we look at and what we don't look at pertaining to log homes. All right, so portions of the front porch were more than 30 inches high, and anytime that there is a landing or any type of drop off, of course, porches, those sort of things that are more than 30 inches high, guardrails are supposed to be installed. So that's really important, especially if there are elderly or young children or anything like that. So it would definitely be a great idea to add guardrails up there at the front porch. All right, the front entry stairs parge coat was found in a deteriorated condition. And really all a parge coat is where they take mortar and they basically just kind of apply the mortar and make it look a little more stony, if you will. I'm not sure there's a better word for that, but these are just concrete steps, and they've kind of put this parge coat on there to kind of replicate the stone that is on the side. But if that's something that that you guys wanted to keep, then we definitely kind of need to repair that stuff. Also, the front entry stairs and the rear entry basement stairs had more than 3 steps, and handrails are needed anytime there are more than 3 steps or risers there. All right, so some of the wood components of the front porch were in good condition, and however, some of the portions were showing signs of deterioration, especially along the edge of the porch where you could just see that these things have kind of taken on some water to where the water is getting underneath that underhang there. All right, there was a porch post bottom, and this was at the right side rear porch that was just found a little deteriorated. Looked like it was taking on some moisture. Also, I wanted to just let you guys know that I always orientate my left and my right like I am looking at the house from the street or the front of the house. I know that this house has kind of a side street there, so it would be more like me walking into the front yard and looking at the front door. That's how I orientate the right and the left. That way you guys will know exactly what I'm talking about in these reports. Okay, there were some outbuildings that were on the property that were detached from the main structure. And this is basically just saying that that they are beyond the scope of a normal home inspection unless otherwise noted somewhere. All right, there was some loose soffit that was found in areas that just needed to be repaired. And the soffit is this part that is kind of facing down. And these things aren't nailed or glued or screwed or anything like that. Basically, they just hang in this lip right here. This piece that is going along the front, like right behind the gutter there, is called fascia, and it's got a little lip on it. And this soffit just needs to be pushed back up, and that fascia just kind of bent back towards inward just a little bit. That way it holds that soffit in there a little tighter. All right, the exterior wood trim around the windows had an aluminum cladding, and that cladding is awesome. It is definitely an upgrade. It helps make that trim maintenance free. However, the condition of the wood behind the cladding is almost impossible to see, but it was really nice to see that somebody has gone around and flashed all of those windows, because window trim and door trim are probably, some of the areas that are found most deteriorated, that just take a beating from water over time. So it's really nice to see that. That'll definitely help in keeping the maintenance down. All All right, there was some minor carpenter bee damage. This was at the right front porch area. I would say it was a total of about 6 inches or so, right here, so not much at all. There was also a little moisture damage that was found on a support beam. This was at the left front, and you can just kind of see that it's taken on a little bit of water here, so we definitely want to try to stop that in its tracks and get that sealed somehow. That way it doesn't just keep deteriorating. All right, portions of the stone chimney chase walls were found just with loose mortar in between those stones. Also at the rear retaining walls that are leading down to the basement door there were found just cracked. And again, you're going to notice a common theme in everything that we do, and that is water, right? So we're trying to keep water away from the home, and if it hits the home, which it inevitably is going to do, we want to make sure that it doesn't have a place to just sit and hang out and that sort of stuff. So homes will last forever, as long as they are sealed up tight, as long as there aren't penetrations that are going to allow water and different things like that to get in there and kind of mess stuff up. So any of this sort of stuff that you ever see around the home, is always going to be a good idea to seal that up. You can kind of see here, and again, this isn't a big deal because these blocks are not foundational whatsoever. This is merely just the retaining wall that is going down to that basement door. But still, at the same time, we want to seal these up to where water doesn't get in there and make things worse. There were some small gaps that were found on the exterior, and this was mainly on the right side. So you can see, again, just stuff like this right here. We want to make sure that we seal that up somehow, because rodents, birds, insects, wasps, different things like that are always going to find their way in. They're always looking for some way to get out of the elements. And this right here was right above the right side front or right side entry door there. And it looks like maybe this was a bird or something. And this, I believe, was a snake tail. So maybe one or both of these guys got caught in there. They were definitely both deceased and no longer with us. But, again, this is just a prime example of why we don't want to have gaps in the exterior. Just kind of like the stuff that we just got through talking about. These were just little cracks in the chinking, which is the mortar coat that goes in between the logs. We want to seal that up because, again, we don't want water getting in there anywhere. Several of the downspouts were missing splash blocks or extensions. So that's really important that we get those things draining away from the house. We never want those just dumping right around the foundation wall or the exterior wall, which essentially is the foundation wall. We always want to make sure that the home has a little backfill and it's always sloping away, especially that first 3, 4, 5 feet there. And that water has a place to continue to run away from the house and not just sit around the exterior. All right, the electrical mass was found just loose from the structure. You can see here that it looks like it's almost kind of leaning that way, wanting to try to topple a little bit, and has pulled the nails out. Also, there were some nail holes or nails that were found in some of the flashing boots, and this is a roof vent here. And really, these things just need to have like a little goop put on them. That way, water doesn't end up finding its way around the center of those holes or around that nail hole where it, meets the material there. All right, there was a damaged shingle found along the front dormer. And really, this is something that's almost more cosmetic. This is more of a shingle rip that is just kind of laying right on top of the flashing. Really this shingle rip right here is not necessarily needed. I think that somebody just kind of put it there. That way they can break up, the 6 inches of flashing that's right there. And maybe make it look a little better. But, the important thing here is the flashing. That way water, has a chance. This flashing runs up underneath behind this siding right here. So anything that gets behind there or, of course, on top, the water hits this and, has a place to run right onto the next shingle and then right onto the next shingle and so on. But, it would be really easy just to kind of get up here with some glue or just put a couple of nails in that to get that straightened out. All right, the chimney flue cap, or one of the chimney flue caps was missing, so we want to get that replaced or at least sealed off. There was a little bit of slight moisture damage that was found. This was on the right side in the basement ceiling area there. And this was pretty much the only place in the home that I could find any type of moisture damage. So it's definitely, it's kind of a testament to the house. You can see here how it's discolored. That's indicative of, moisture being soaked up, but was definitely from sometime in the past. It was from a previous leak. It's not even registering on the actual the meter here, so it was definitely dry at the time of the inspection, which is why it's a blue dot. Nothing needs to happen. It doesn't need to be torn out or replaced or anything like that. But of course, we want to let you know it was there. Okay, portions of the attic space were not viewable just to the lack of catwalks. There wasn't a lot of attic space, and that's mainly because of the vaulted ceilings in the upstairs where they used most of that attic space up there. However, there was that one run at the back of the house, and if you go kind of down towards the end, you can see in there, and everything looked great. There were trusses in there, so that's really nice to see, and all of that looked good. The exterior outlets were not GFCI protected. They were all hot, and they had GFCI outlets, but more than likely one of those has gone bad, and it is keeping those from tripping and providing that GFCI protection. All right, there were some exposed wires in the basement that should be tied in a junction box. There was one breaker on the electrical panel that wasn't labeled, so we should get that labeled for you. All right, there were only 2 screws that were found holding the electrical panel on, and those out of those 2 screws, they had pointed tips. And we never want to use any kind of pointed tips because those things can puncture a wire and, of course, cause electrocution and be a safety hazard, those sort of things. So we want to make sure that we get more screws in that panel and that those screws are blunt tip screws. Couple of blue dots here. One states that we were able to test the air conditioner, but whenever we have a heat pump, we are not able to actually test the heat whenever it exceeds 70 degrees, and it was well over 70 degrees. However, when you have this type of split system, it basically just works in reverse. So 99% of the time, if you've got the cold air blowing, then the heat will do the same thing. But we just wanted to let you know that we weren't able to actually turn the heat on and kick it. The split unit that you had, first of all, it was a 4-ton unit, which is huge. And I believe it was a 2011, so definitely not old or ancient. But this next line states that it is over 5 years old, so it'd be nice to have some sort of records of regular maintenance. If not, it may be a good idea to have an HVAC person out because they're going to have those fancy Freon gauges and all those other sort of stuff that we're not going to have, and going to go into a little bit more depth, obviously, to check those things out. Okay, there was some damaged HVAC insulation that should just be put back up there and taped off. All right, there was a noticeable sulfur smell coming from the water sources in the home. And first of all, the well pump and the filter and all of that sort of stuff was all unplugged and, of course, hasn't been running in a while. It's hard to tell exactly how long, but, I'm sure you guys are going to replace that filter and get all that stuff back up and running. But I'm sure that's kind of what's leading up to that. All right, that basement bathtub shower was not tested. The water was on there. I did turn it on real quickly, but I didn't flood test it just because of all the debris in there. We don't want it clogging drains or anything. There was some unprotected wiring that was on top of the water heater, and there's a lot of voltage going to the water heater because of those heating elements. So those things are, any type of exposed wiring like that above a water heater is supposed to be in a protective conduit, just that way in case somebody bumps up into it or anything like that. We don't want that coming undone and possibly zapping somebody. All right, portions of the shower head nozzles appear to be clogged in the right rear bathroom, and this is how thorough we get right here. You can see that there's only about 4, maybe 5 of those out of who knows how many. So that thing probably just needs a good cleaning. There were a couple little leaks found in the plumbing under the sinks in the home that probably do not leak under normal circumstances, but what we do is called a flood test, and that's where you go in and fill everything up as much as possible and then drain it as fast as possible. That puts the most pressure on these plumbing lines, and they're going to show any leaks that might be there versus if somebody is just running the water and letting it go straight down the drain. Also, there were several of the S-style traps that were found under the sinks instead of the P traps. And at times, if those S traps dry out, they can start to allow those sewer gases back in the home. The right side hallway bathroom and the primary bathroom sink stoppers weren't working and just weren't functioning properly. The primary bathroom, and this bathroom is the one that was on the left rear of the home, that was a single vanity, but was, was an ensuite bathroom there to that, what I was calling the primary bathroom. But that exhaust fan was making a lot of noise whenever you turned it on. Here's that other leak. This one was under the kitchen sink, so that should be fixed. And again, it wasn't leaking just running the water straight down the drain, but if you plug it and then put some pressure on it, then that's when those things start to show up. All right, the anti-tip device was found missing for the range, and it was actually in the drawer. Just nobody installed it. It was in the little pull-out drawer that's down here on the bottom. And this is a safety device that is made for to keep children that want to pull down this door and then climb up there, to keep that oven from toppling over on them. I've got a story. My daughter was not much more than a year old, and of course it was one of those where I had her, I was watching her by myself. Mom was out doing something else, and it was around Thanksgiving or Christmas time. And anyways, I had to go to the bathroom real quick. She could, barely walk around. Well, anyways, I came back in no more than a minute later, and she had pulled these out and climbed up these drawers. It was a set of drawers kind of like this. Was sitting on top of the counter and was eating a honey baked ham that we had that was just kind of wrapped up sitting on the counter. But, that was kind of eye opening to me that, okay, well, there's nothing that these guys can't do, and their curiosity, runs wild. So that's what that thing is for. But they're really easy to install. This part, the back part, just screws to the wall, to the back wall, and then one of those rear feet of the oven, it doesn't matter which side you put it on, just slides into that little fork there, and it keeps that thing from being able to topple over forward. All right, the upstairs stairway handrail was found missing, and then also the light fixture above the basement stairway was missing. And we need to have a light, first of all, in every stairway, and there needs to be a switch to operate that light at the top and the bottom of each one of those stairs. So we definitely need to get a light in there for safety purposes. This one's talking about the well water system, and that, those things need annual routine maintenance and water testing. And without records of regular maintenance, its complete condition is unknown. I know that we are doing a water sample test for you guys on Thursday, and also they are doing the termite inspection on Wednesday as well. So those are in the works. The block foundation wall and the basement floor had signs of high moisture. And I think that this goes back to the splash blocks that were missing, or the extensions that were missing from the downspouts around the home. This is exactly kind of what we're talking about, to where, these things are going to start to take on some water. And you can see that, maybe during heavy rains, a little bit of water, it's got signs of a little bit of water. Not saying that it's rushing in or anything like that, but, those bricks and blocks, they'll still soak up some water and will show signs of that as well. All right, they had nice double hung windows throughout the entire home. There were a couple that were just missing a little bit of the hardware. And then some of them that were found dirty. I didn't really think that any of them had any broken seals or were fogging. Some of them were just dirty and needed to have the screen pulled off and just cleaned really good. Several of the doors in the home were either not latching properly, and that just is an adjustment with the striker plate. This door was missing. I believe that was one of the upstairs closet doors. This was the primary door here that had some damage to it that just needed to be sanded down probably. Looks like they've already got like some wood putty and stuff in there. Not all of the bedrooms had smoke detectors, and that's really important and really easy to do now, especially with all of the battery operated smoke detectors. The big thing about the battery ones now is that they will all sync up together, to where used to have to do that, you actually had to have them hardwired, where now they will all sync up to and, you know, talk to each other. I don't know if it's Bluetooth technology or what, but it makes it really easy. But those things really should be in every bedroom and in every hallway there. All right, the gas-powered wall heater was found with the gas valve in the off position, and we're never allowed to go in and turn on any type of valves, water valves, gas valves. We can't flip any breakers on, plug anything in, unfortunately, that's not plugged in. And the reason is liability. You know, a lot of times, or most of the time, nobody, if something's wrong, they don't tell the home inspector about it. Most of the time, they're trying to keep it from the home inspector. So, you know, if we go and we turn on a water valve and there's a leak on the other side of the house that was, you know, unbeknownst to us, and then, you know, 30 minutes later, we find out that that's actually running, then there's a huge mess in there. So that's the liability, and those are the reasons why insurance won't allow us to do that. All right, the fireplace flue damper had evidence of creosote when inspected, and creosote is just buildup of, you know, just like a resin or a tar from burning wood products in there. Just a natural byproduct of that needs to be cleaned out, because that stuff, if it gets bad enough, can be flammable and can kind of take on a mind of its own. So it's a good idea to have a chimney sweep and have those things cleaned out ever so often. And then I made this for you guys. This was because I just wanted to inform y'all. But most of the bedrooms, or actually all of the bedrooms that didn't have an actual light fixture or fan overhead, they did have a corresponding outlet. And most of the time, it's the outlet that's right on the same wall or closest to it right here that is actually operated by the switch there. So there's one example. And then there is another example right there. But every one of the bedrooms that didn't have that did have a switch that operated that outlet. So that was really nice to see for you guys. And I just wanted to inform y'all of that. All right, and that's it for the report. I know that we go over a lot. I know that most of it is, you know, not the good things. But you know, this house, honestly, it was in great shape to be close to 40 years old. And, you know, it was built like a tank. Underneath in that basement, you know, I was able to look at all of the structural framing, and I mean, it is just super, super solid down there. And I think that this is a great home. It's going to make somebody, you know, a great place to live. Anyways, if you guys have any questions about anything that we went over, or maybe something that we didn't go over, feel free to reach out to me anytime. Thanks.